All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling something that I think a lot of you have probably heard of, maybe even tried. We're diving into the world of functional fitness.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a buzzword these days.
For sure, and for this deep dive, we're going to be pulling insights from a podcast we listened to called Functional Fitness, Enhancing Everyday Life. And, I think the title kind of says it all. It's not just about looking good, it's about, feeling good and being able to move through your life more easily.
Exactly. And that's really what we're going to try to unpack today. Like, what is it at its core? How does it differ from, like, your typical gym workout? How can you actually start incorporating it? And we'll also try to debunk some of the common myths surrounding functional fitness. We want you to walk away from this with a really clear picture of what it's all about and how it could potentially benefit you, like really make a difference in your day-to-day life.
So let's just jump right in. What exactly is functional fitness? When we strip away all the jargon, what are we really talking about?
At its heart, functional fitness is all about preparing your body to handle the demands of, well, daily life. We're talking about making those everyday activities like carrying groceries, going up and down stairs, or even just playing with your kids easier and safer. It's less about bulking up or looking a certain way and more about improving your overall quality of life by making your body more efficient and resilient.
Okay, so it's about making your body work better, not just look better. It's about function over form.
Exactly. And one of the key principles here is focusing on movements that engage multiple muscle groups at the same time. This is how our bodies are designed to move naturally, in real life situations. Think about it. When you bend down to pick something up, you're not just using your back or your legs. You're engaging your core, your arms, your shoulders. Everything works together in a coordinated way. Functional fitness training mimics these natural movement patterns.
So this brings me to my next question. How does this differ from, say, a traditional gym workout,
Yeah.
where you might be using machines to isolate specific muscle groups?
That's a huge difference. You hit the nail on the head there. While traditional workouts often focus on isolating specific muscles, like doing bicep curls or leg extensions, functional fitness is all about those compound exercises. These are movements that, like we were saying, work multiple muscle groups simultaneously.
So, like, what kinds of exercises are we talking about? Can you give some specific
Oh,
examples?
absolutely. Think squats, lunges, push-ups, deadlifts, rows, things like that. These are all movements that engage multiple joints and muscle groups at the same time. And, the beauty of these compound exercises is that they more closely resemble the movements we perform in our daily lives. So the strength you build translates more directly to those everyday activities.
Makes sense. So instead of just building bicep strength in isolation, you're training your body to work as a whole unit, which seems way more practical for, actually navigating the world.
Exactly. It's about bridging that gap between strength training and real life functionality. You might be able to bench press a lot of weight, but if you can't pick up your grocery bags without straining your back, then what's the point?
Right. It's about building strength that actually serves you. So let's say someone's listening and thinking, okay, functional fitness sounds pretty great. I'm interested. Where do they even begin? What's step one?
Well, the podcast we listened to suggested starting with a bit of self-assessment. Basically, take a moment to think about your daily routine. What are the movements you do most often? Are you lifting things, bending, reaching overhead, twisting? Once you have a better understanding of your own personal movement patterns, you can start incorporating exercises that strengthen those specific movements.
So it's almost like doing a personal movement audit.
Yeah, I like that. A movement audit. It's about figuring out what your body actually needs to do on a daily basis and then training accordingly. And of course, beyond that, some fundamental components of functional fitness are working on your core strength, balance, and flexibility. A strong core helps stabilize your body, good balance can help prevent falls and injuries, and flexibility allows for a wider range of motion. So things like planks, single leg balances, and stretching are all super beneficial.
That all makes a lot of sense. Now, I know there are some common misconceptions out there about functional fitness, so let's bust some myths. I think one of the big ones is that functional fitness doesn't really build muscle or change your physique.
Yeah, that's a big one, and the podcast addressed this head on. While the primary goal of functional fitness isn't necessarily aesthetic, you'll likely see positive changes in your physique as a byproduct of these compound exercises. You're still working your muscles hard, so you can definitely expect to see some gains in strength and muscle mass.
So even though you're not hyper-focused on building a certain look, you'll still likely experience some of those benefits as you get stronger.
Absolutely. And another common myth is that functional fitness requires a ton of fancy equipment or a gym membership. But the reality is that many, if not most, functional exercises can be done with little to no equipment. Bodyweight exercises, for example, are incredibly effective and can be done anywhere. Of course, adding weights and resistance bands can help you progress, but it's not a necessity to get started.
That's a good point. It makes it so much more accessible for people. So, for someone who is now on board with this idea, who wants to make functional fitness part of their routine, what are some practical tips for getting started and, making sure they do it safely?
Well, the first piece of advice in the podcast was to start slow and prioritize proper form. You know, don't try to go too heavy or do too much too soon. Focus on mastering the movements with good technique because poor form can actually increase your risk of injury, which is, of course, the opposite of what we want.
Right. Safety should always come first. It's better to start slow and build up gradually than to get hurt trying to do too much too soon.
For sure. And I think another really valuable tip was to consider working with a qualified fitness professional, especially in the beginning. They can assess your current fitness level, help you understand your individual movement patterns, and create a personalized plan that aligns with your goals and needs.
Mm-hmm.
They can also help make sure you're using proper form and, avoid any potential injuries.
That makes a ton of sense. Having expert guidance, at least initially, can really make a difference.
Absolutely. And finally, consistency is key. Like any form of training, you're not going to see results overnight. It takes time and effort. The key is to consistently incorporate functional movements into your routine, even if it's just for short periods, a few times a week. Over time, those small efforts will add up and lead to significant improvements in your overall strength, mobility, and quality of life.
So let's recap. We dove into the world of functional fitness, and what we learned is that it's about training your body in a way that directly benefits your everyday life. It's not about aesthetics or isolating muscles. It's about compound movements that mimic the way we actually move in the real world. And it's surprisingly accessible. You can start with bodyweight exercises at home, and with consistency and attention to proper form, you can really transform your ability to move through the world.
I think that sums it up perfectly. It's about making your body work for you, not against you. And that translates to so many aspects of life.
Absolutely. So here's something to ponder as you go about your day. We spend so much of our time moving, even just in little ways without even realizing it. How might approaching those movements, even the seemingly mundane ones, with a sense of intentionality, with that functional fitness mindset, actually change your relationship with your body and your surroundings? It's almost like a subtle shift in awareness and how you move through the world.
That's a really interesting thought. It's like taking something we often do on autopilot and bringing it into focus. And I think that shift in awareness, that feeling of moving with greater purpose and control, can have a ripple effect on so many aspects of your well-being.
Yeah, it's not just about lifting heavier weights. It's about moving through life with more ease, confidence, and a sense of physical competence.
Yeah.
It's about feeling truly comfortable in your own body.
Exactly. And isn't that what we all ultimately want? To feel good in our own skin and be able to fully participate in life without limitations.
I think so. Well, on that note, I think that wraps up our deep dive into functional fitness.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
And we'll see you next time.